Aria's fingers danced across the piano keys, coaxing a melancholy melody from the instrument. The soft notes floated through her small apartment, a bittersweet soundtrack to another lonely evening. At 32, she had long since given up on the idea of finding true love. Her career as a concert pianist kept her busy, but it did little to fill the void in her heart. As the final chords faded, Aria sighed and closed the piano lid. She wandered to the window, gazing out at the twinkling city lights below. The bustling streets of New York seemed to mock her isolation. Couples strolled hand in hand, laughing and lost in their own worlds. Aria pressed her forehead against the cool glass, allowing a single tear to slip down her cheek. A sharp knock at the door startled her from her reverie. Aria frowned, glancing at the clock. It was nearly midnight. Who could be calling at this hour? Cautiously, she approached the door and peered through the peephole. A man stood in the hallway, his back to her as he ran a hand through his disheveled dark hair. He turned, revealing a face etched with worry and fatigue. Aria's breath caught in her throat. Even in his distressed state, he was strikingly handsome. "Hello?" she called hesitantly. "Can I help you?" The man's head snapped up, his piercing blue eyes meeting hers through the peephole. "I'm so sorry to bother you," he said, his voice deep and tinged with embarrassment. "I'm Noah, your new neighbor. I just moved in next door and, well, I hate to ask, but I'm in a bit of a situation." Intrigued despite herself, Aria opened the door a crack. "What kind of situation?" Noah's cheeks flushed. "I locked myself out of my apartment. The super won't be back until morning, and I don't know anyone else in the building yet. I was hoping maybe I could use your phone to call a locksmith?" Aria hesitated. She prided herself on being cautious, especially living alone in the city. But there was something about Noah's earnest expression that put her at ease. Against her better judgment, she found herself opening the door wider. "Of course," she said. "Come in. I'm Aria, by the way." Noah's relief was palpable as he stepped into her apartment. "Thank you so much, Aria. I promise I won't be any trouble." As Noah made his call, Aria couldn't help but study him surreptitiously. He was tall and lean, with broad shoulders that hinted at an athletic build beneath his rumpled dress shirt. His strong jaw was dusted with stubble, giving him a rugged appeal that contrasted with his polished attire. When he hung up, Noah turned to her with a sheepish smile. "The locksmith can't make it for a couple of hours. Would you mind terribly if I waited here? I'd be happy to treat you to coffee sometime as a thank you." Aria found herself nodding before she could overthink it. "That's fine. I was just about to make some tea if you'd like some." As she busied herself in the kitchen, Aria's mind raced. What was she doing, inviting a strange man into her home in the middle of the night? But Noah's presence felt oddly comfortable, as if they'd known each other for years rather than minutes. They settled on the couch, mugs of steaming tea in hand. An awkward silence stretched between them until Noah's gaze fell on the piano. "Do you play?" he asked, gesturing towards the instrument. Aria nodded. "I'm a concert pianist. I was just practicing before you knocked." Noah's eyes lit up. "Really? That's amazing. I've always wished I could play an instrument. My mother tried to teach me piano as a kid, but I never had the patience for it." "It's never too late to learn," Aria found herself saying. "What do you do?" "I'm an architect," Noah replied. "Just moved here from Chicago for a new job. It's been an adjustment." Something in his tone made Aria pause. "Is everything all right?" Noah sighed, running a hand through his hair again, a nervous habit Aria was beginning to realize. "Honestly, not really. The job is great, but I left behind my whole life in Chicago, my friends, my family, my fiancé." Aria's heart sank inexplicably at his words. Of course a man like Noah would be taken. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "That must be difficult." Noah's laugh was hollow. "The funny thing is, I'm not even sure I miss her. We'd been growing apart for a while, and this move just solidified things. We called off the engagement last week." "Oh," Aria breathed. "I'm so sorry." Noah shook his head. "Don't be. It was for the best. I guess I'm feeling a bit lost. Starting over in a new city is harder than I expected." Without thinking, Aria reached out and placed her hand on his arm. I know how that feels. I moved here 5 years ago and barely knew anyone. It gets easier, I promise. Noah's gaze met hers, a spark of connection passing between them. Thank you, he said softly, for the tea and for listening. I didn't mean to unload all of this on you. It's okay, Aria assured him. Sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger. They fell into easy conversation after that, discussing their favorite spots in the city and sharing stories of their respective careers. Aria found herself laughing more than she had in months, drawn in by Noah's quick wit and genuine warmth. As the hours slipped by, Aria barely noticed the passage of time. It wasn't until a knock at the door startled them both that she realized how late it had gotten. That must be the locksmith, Noah said, rising from the couch. He hesitated, looking down at Aria with an unreadable expression. Thank you again. For everything. I'd still like to take you out for coffee sometime if you're interested. Aria's heart fluttered. I'd like that, she replied, surprising herself with her boldness. As Noah left with the locksmith, Aria closed the door behind him and leaned against it, her mind whirling. She couldn't remember the last time she'd felt such an instant connection with someone, but she forced herself to temper her expectations. Noah had just ended a serious relationship. He was probably just being friendly. Over the next few weeks, Aria found herself running into Noah more and more frequently. They'd bump into each other in the hallway or at the mailboxes, exchanging smiles and brief conversations that left Aria's heart racing. But true to his word, Noah finally caught her one afternoon as she was returning from a rehearsal. Aria, I'm glad I caught you, he said, jogging up to her. I was wondering if you'd like to grab that coffee this weekend. There's a great little cafe around the corner I've been wanting to try. Aria's stomach fluttered with nerves and excitement. I'd love to, she replied, hoping her voice sounded steadier than she felt. Saturday arrived, and Aria spent far too long agonizing over her outfit. She finally settled on a simple sundress, hoping it struck the right balance between casual and put together. When Noah knocked on her door, her breath caught in her throat. He looked effortlessly handsome in dark jeans and a blue button-down that made his eyes even more striking. You look beautiful, Noah said softly, his gaze sweeping over her appreciatively. Aria blushed. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. The cafe was charming, with mismatched vintage furniture and the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans. As they settled into a cozy corner table, Aria felt her nerves begin to fade. Conversation flowed easily between them, picking up right where they'd left off that first night. So, tell me more about your work, Noah said, leaning forward with genuine interest. What's it like being a concert pianist? Aria's eyes lit up as she described her passion for music. It's exhilarating, she said. There's nothing quite like losing yourself in a piece, feeling the music flow through you and out to the audience, but it can be demanding too. The constant practice, the pressure of performances. Noah nodded in understanding. I can imagine. It sounds similar to architecture in some ways. The blend of creativity and technical skill, the pressure to deliver something extraordinary. As they talked, Aria found herself opening up more than she had with anyone in years. She told Noah about her childhood in a small Midwestern town, her struggles to make it in the competitive world of classical music, and her dreams for the future. In turn, Noah shared stories of his own journey, from a rebellious teenager who nearly flunked out of high school to finding his calling in architecture. He spoke of his close-knit family back in Chicago and the bittersweet decision to pursue his career in New York. I don't regret coming here, he said, his eyes meeting Aria's. But I do miss having that sense of connection, you know? That feeling of truly belonging somewhere. Aria nodded, understanding all too well. It's not easy to find, she admitted, but I think it's possible, even in a city as big as this. Sometimes it just takes time, and the right person. The words hung between them, charged with unspoken possibility. Noah reached across the table, his fingers brushing against Aria's. I'm really glad I met you, Aria, he said softly. Aria's heart raced at his touch. Me too, she whispered. As they left the cafe, Noah suggested a walk through a nearby park. The afternoon sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across their path. Without thinking, Aria found herself reaching for Noah's hand. He intertwined his fingers with hers, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. They strolled in comfortable silence for a while, simply enjoying each other's company. As they reached a secluded bench overlooking a small pond, Noah tugged gently on Aria's hand, pulling her to a stop. "Aria," he began, his voice low and intense. "I know we haven't known each other very long, but I feel like there's something special here. Between us. Do you feel it too?" Aria's breath caught in her throat. She nodded, unable to find her voice. Noah stepped closer, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek. "I don't want to rush things," he murmured, "but I can't deny how drawn I am to you." Aria leaned into his touch, her eyes fluttering closed. "I feel the same way," she whispered. Noah's lips met hers in a soft, tentative kiss. It was gentle at first, a mere brush of lips, but it quickly deepened as years of pent-up longing and newfound passion collided. Aria wound her arms around Noah's neck, pressing herself closer as his hand settled on her waist. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. Noah rested his forehead against Aria's, a smile of pure joy lighting up his face. "Wow," he breathed. Aria laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. "Yeah," she agreed. "Wow." As the weeks passed, Aria and Noah's relationship blossomed. They fell into an easy rhythm, spending most of their free time together. Noah would often work late into the night on his designs, and Aria would keep him company, practicing her piano pieces as he sketched. One evening, as Aria's fingers danced across the keys, she felt Noah's presence behind her. His arms slipped around her waist, and he pressed a soft kiss to the nape of her neck. "That was beautiful," he murmured. "What piece is it?" Aria leaned back against him, savoring his warmth. "Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major," she replied. "It's always been one of my favorites." Noah hummed thoughtfully. "It suits you," he said. "Elegant and passionate, with hidden depths." Aria turned in his arms, raising an eyebrow. "Hidden depths, huh?" Noah grinned, pulling her closer. "Oh yes, you're full of surprises, Aria. Just when I think I've got you figured out, you show me another facet of yourself that leaves me in awe." Aria's heart swelled at his words. She reached up, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingertips. "You're not so bad yourself, Mr. Architect. I never thought I'd find someone who could make discussing load-bearing walls sound sexy." Noah laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. "It's all in the delivery," he teased. His expression softened as he gazed down at her. "I love you, Aria. I know it might seem fast, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Aria's breath caught in her throat. She searched Noah's eyes, finding nothing but sincerity and adoration. "I love you too," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "So much." Their lips met in a passionate kiss, conveying all the feelings words couldn't express. As they broke apart, Noah rested his forehead against hers. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. Aria blinked in surprise. "What?" Noah grinned, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Move in with me," he repeated. "I know we haven't been together that long, but I can't imagine my life without you in it. We practically live together already. Let's make it official." Aria's mind raced. It was a big step, especially given how quickly their relationship had progressed. But as she looked into Noah's eyes, she knew there was only one answer she could give. "Yes," she said, laughing as Noah swept her up in his arms, spinning her around the room. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity as they merged their lives together. They decided to keep Noah's apartment, as it was slightly larger and had better natural light for his drafting table. Aria's piano found a place of honor in the living room, becoming the centerpiece of their shared space. As they unpacked the last of Aria's boxes, Noah pulled her into his arms. "Welcome home," he murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. Aria snuggled closer, feeling a sense of peace and contentment she'd never known before. "Home," she repeated softly. I like the sound of that. Their life together wasn't without its challenges. Aria's concert schedule often took her out of town for weeks at a time, while Noah's work kept him busy with long hours and tight deadlines. But they made it work, supporting each other's dreams and finding ways to stay connected even when apart. One evening, as Aria prepared for an important recital, she felt the familiar flutter of nerves in her stomach. Noah noticed her tension and came up behind her, massaging her shoulders gently. "You're going to be amazing," he assured her. "You always are." Aria leaned back against him, drawing strength from his presence. "I just want to do the piece justice," she said. "It's such a complex and emotional work." Noah turned her to face him, cupping her face in his hands. "Aria, listen to me. Your talent is undeniable, but it's your passion that truly sets you apart. When you play, it's like you're baring your soul to the world. That vulnerability, that raw emotion, that's what makes your performances so captivating." Tears pricked at Aria's eyes. "How do you always know exactly what to say?" Noah smiled, brushing away a stray tear with his thumb. "Because I know you," he said simply, "and I believe in you more than anything." As Aria took the stage that night, she carried Noah's words with her. She poured every ounce of herself into the performance, letting the music flow through her and out to the spellbound audience. When the final notes faded away, there was a moment of breathless silence before the auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. Aria's eyes sought out Noah in the crowd, finding him on his feet, clapping wildly with tears in his eyes. In that moment, she felt invincible, capable of anything as long as she had his love and support. As the months turned into years, Aria and Noah's love only deepened. They faced life's ups and downs together, celebrating each other's successes and providing comfort during the inevitable setbacks. On their third anniversary, Noah surprised Aria with a weekend getaway to a quaint bed and breakfast in the countryside. As they strolled hand in hand through a picturesque vineyard, Aria couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. "What are you thinking about?" Noah asked, noticing her contemplative expression. Aria smiled up at him. "Just how lucky I am," she replied. "If you hadn't locked yourself out that night..." Noah chuckled, pulling her close. "I have a confession to make," he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "I didn't actually lock myself out that night." Aria's eyes widened in surprise. "What do you mean?" Noah grinned sheepishly. "I saw you moving in a few days earlier, and I was instantly smitten. I wanted to find a way to talk to you, so I may have staged the whole lockout scenario." Aria laughed, shaking her head in disbelief. "You're kidding! You mean to tell me our entire relationship is based on a lie?" Noah's expression softened, and he cupped her face gently. "Not a lie, just a little creative introduction. Everything that came after was real. I fell in love with you that very first night, Aria. Your kindness, your passion for music, your beautiful soul. I knew I had to find a way to be part of your life." Aria felt tears prick at her eyes, touched by his admission. "I can't believe you went to all that trouble just to meet me." "I'd do it all again in a heartbeat," Noah murmured, leaning in to kiss her softly. As they broke apart, Aria couldn't help but giggle. "You know, if you had just knocked on my door and introduced yourself like a normal person, I probably would have invited you in for coffee." Noah laughed, pulling her close. "Where's the romance in that? Besides, I think our story is much more interesting this way. Something to tell the grandkids one day." Aria's heart skipped a beat at the casual mention of a future together. She nestled closer to Noah, breathing in his familiar scent. "I love you, you ridiculous man." "I love you too," Noah replied, his voice filled with warmth. "More than you could ever know." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms with the sun setting behind them, Aria felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had never believed in fate or destiny, but meeting Noah had changed everything. Perhaps some things were meant to be, even if they came about in the most unexpected ways. The sound of laughter drifted up from the vineyard below, reminding them that they weren't alone. Noah took Aria's hand, intertwining their fingers. "What do you say we head back? I have one more surprise for you tonight." Aria raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Another surprise? You're spoiling me, Mr. Architect." Noah's smile was enigmatic as he led her down the path. You deserve to be spoiled, Miss Pianist. Trust me, this one will be worth the wait. As they made their way back to the bed and breakfast, Aria's mind raced with possibilities. What could Noah have planned? The weekend had already been perfect. The beautiful setting, the intimate moments they'd shared, the walk through the vineyard. What more could there be? When they reached their room, Noah paused outside the door. "Close your eyes," he instructed softly. Aria complied, her heart racing with anticipation. She heard the door open, and Noah guided her inside with gentle hands on her waist. The scent of roses filled the air, and she could hear the soft strains of music playing in the background, Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, her favorite piece. "Okay." Noah's voice was barely above a whisper. "Open your eyes." Aria gasped as she took in the scene before her. The room was bathed in the warm glow of dozens of candles, and rose petals were scattered across the floor. In the center of the room stood a beautiful baby grand piano, its polished surface gleaming in the candlelight. "Noah," Aria breathed, her eyes filling with tears. "How did you?" Noah wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "I may have called in a few favors. I know how much you miss playing when we're away from home, and I wanted you to have a piece of that here." Aria turned in his arms, overwhelmed by the gesture. I don't even know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem like enough." Noah's eyes were soft as he gazed at her. "You don't have to say anything. Just play for me?" Aria nodded, wiping away a stray tear as she made her way to the piano. She sat down, running her fingers reverently over the keys. As she began to play, pouring all of her emotions into the music, she felt Noah's presence behind her. The melody filled the room, intertwining with the crackling of candles and the soft rustle of rose petals. Aria lost herself in the music, her fingers dancing across the keys as if they had a mind of their own. She played not just for Noah, but for herself, for the joy and love that had blossomed in her life since meeting him. As the final notes faded away, Aria felt Noah's hand on her shoulder. She looked up to find him kneeling beside the piano bench, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Aria," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "From the moment I met you, I knew my life would never be the same. You've brought light and music into my world in ways I never thought possible. I love you more than I ever believed I could love anyone, and I want to spend the rest of my life showing you just how much." Aria's breath caught in her throat as Noah reached into his pocket, producing a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a stunning diamond ring, its facets catching the candlelight. "Aria Elizabeth Thompson," Noah said, his voice steady despite the trembling of his hands. "Will you marry me?" Time seemed to stand still as Aria looked into Noah's eyes, seeing all the love and hope reflected there. In that moment, she saw their future stretching out before them, a lifetime of laughter, music, and unwavering support. She saw lazy Sunday mornings and passionate nights, shared dreams and conquered challenges. She saw a love that would only grow stronger with each passing day. "Yes," Aria whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, Noah, 1,000 times, yes." Noah's face broke into a radiant smile as he slipped the ring onto her finger. He stood, pulling Aria to her feet and into his arms. Their lips met in a kiss that was both tender and passionate, filled with promises of the future they would build together. As they broke apart, both laughing and crying, Aria rested her forehead against Noah's. "I can't believe you did all this," she said, gesturing to the room around them. Noah grinned, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I wanted it to be perfect. You deserve nothing less." Aria shook her head, her eyes shining with love. "It would have been perfect if you'd proposed in our living room with a ring pop. All that matters is that it's you." Noah's expression softened, and he pulled her close once more. "I love you, future Mrs. Callahan." "I love you too, future Mr. Thompson," Aria teased, earning a laugh from Noah. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms with the candlelight flickering around them, Aria felt a sense of completeness she had never known before. She had always thought her music was the greatest love of her life, but now she understood that it had simply been preparing her for this, for Noah, and the beautiful symphony they would create together. The night stretched on, filled with whispered promises and shared dreams. As they lay tangled together in the early hours of the morning, Aria traced lazy patterns on Noah's chest, her new ring catching the first rays of dawn. "What are you thinking about?" Noah murmured, his voice husky with sleep. Aria smiled, pressing a soft kiss to his shoulder. "I'm thinking about how lucky I am, how one locked door changed everything." Noah chuckled, pulling her closer. "I think you mean one brilliantly executed plan?" Aria laughed, swatting him playfully. "You're never going to let me forget that, are you?" "Never," Noah agreed, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "It'll be part of our vows. I, Noah, promise to always find creative ways to be near you, even if it means pretending to be locked out of my apartment." Aria shook her head, unable to keep the smile from her face. "You're ridiculous." "But you love me," Noah countered, his expression softening. "I do," Aria agreed, leaning in to kiss him softly. "More than I ever thought possible." As the sun rose higher in the sky, painting the room in warm hues of gold and pink, Aria and Noah remained wrapped in their cocoon of love and happiness. They had no way of knowing what challenges the future might hold, but they were certain of one thing: together they could face anything. The piano stood silent in the corner, a testament to the beautiful music they had created together and the countless melodies yet to come. And as Aria drifted off to sleep in Noah's arms, she knew that the greatest composition of her life was just beginning. A lifelong duet with the man she loved.